Hello, everyone. So, the first episode of The Last of Us TV adaptation on HBO is finally here. This is easily my most anticipated show of the year. And yeah, I was just very pumped. I've been counting down the days, counting down the hours, counting down the minutes for this show to be released. So, the first episode is about like an hour and 22 minutes long, I believe. It is entitled When You're Lost in the Darkness. And of course, this show is created by Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin. It is done by the team who did the Chernobyl series on HBO a few years ago, and it stars Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, Gabrielle Luna, a whole bunch of very talented cast is making its way to the show. So yes, without further ado, let me get into my review, discussion, all that good stuff about the first episode of the Last of Us series. So this season is going to be 9 episodes long total, at least that's what IMDb is telling me right now. And yeah, geez, where do I really start when talking about this? All I'll say is that I am very happy about what they were able to adapt here. And I should say right now too, if you haven't played the game, I am going to get into a little bit of spoilers for the game, which of course will spoil is going to spoil the show if you haven't seen the game. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, so you have been forewarned. But yeah, so this show starts in the 1960s, which I found I feel like this definitely wasn't necessary to tell in terms of like the video game story and things like that, but there is a little bit of a segment in the 1960s that's just basically a newscast talking about the spread of infections in the 60s, influenza, things like that. But then there is a scientist who comes on who's talking about fungus and saying like if the world gets hotter, the fungus would be able to basically take over human cognitive function, things like that. And he lists a bunch of different, again, to just funguses that would have the potential to do this. So I feel like that was a good thing to describe what goes on in again in terms of the apocalypse, because the game didn't really tell you that. It was all these kind of little trailers and developer discussions that told us that. So in terms of people watching the show for the first time, not watching the game, I thought this was a decent way to tell people again to what cordyceps are and how they are going to just affect the world and affect too just the infected, the people, our whole entire world. I found it was a decent way to describe that. Of course, it doesn't exactly say cordyceps. They list, I think it was several different types of fungus, and cordyceps was one of them. So at least as of right now, they haven't exactly said that within the show, but of course we all know it's cordyceps is what takes it over. So then this game perfectly adapts really like the first 90 minutes of the game within this storyline. We get to the whole ordeal with Joel, Tommy, and of course Joel's daughter Sam. And yeah, that's it adapted that whole sequence absolutely perfectly. We do see a little bit more context, and we do get to spend a little bit more time with Sam and see her fix Joel's watch. And again, too, it did show against the situation that they were in financially and just kind of struggling a little bit as a family. And even though their lives were hard and they were kind of just barely making things work, you could see the love for one another that they had and just how hardworking Sam was and how amazing a person that she was. And really, she was something that held Joel together as a decent human being, something that grounded him and brought out a lot of humanity in his character. And having her taken away from him again too just so early in the apocalypse did did a number on him. So I found giving her that extra little bit of backgrounds was something very just well done. There were some very brutal kills within this first episode. Joel taking out the first clicker or the first infected with a wrench was such a heavy hit, and I found just again too something great for his character to show that he's a no fuck around type of guy. And Pedro Pascal played the part absolutely perfectly within this. The role playing Sam was great. It's Tommy we didn't get to see a ton of course, but they adapted that whole first sequence absolutely great. I mean, the points where like they were using the exact same camera angles during the driving sequence that they did in the game, and that was absolutely amazing and unbelievable. Of course too, they definitely elevated the sequence a little bit more. There's a ginormous explosion in the game that happens from someone crashing their car into a gas station, and again too just having that explosion effect. But in this one, there was a whole plane coming down and crashing into the city. Yeah, there was just a lot of just great things that they did, and I just found they adapted it absolutely perfectly in terms of its heart, its character, its despair, the horror around the whole situation. The clickers are absolutely great. There was a few times where I found that the mouth movements didn't quite match up with the projection of the infected sounds. I'll have to maybe watch it again and see if I'm right there, but there was a few times with the first infected grandma, and then when they're running through the streets of the town just outside of Austin there. I found, again, too, there was just a few times where it really seems like it was just not sequenced up quite a bit. But when it comes to the, or I'll talk about the set direction and everything about that, but that's all absolutely perfect. So that all happens within like the first 30-ish minutes, and then the next hour is setting up the points in the game where Tess and Joel find out who they're going to, or that they're going to be transporting and smuggling Ellie in. And we do get to spend a little bit more time with Ellie than we did in the game before, again, to the characters met, which I did find too was a decent way to set her up for TV. They do change a few things to, again, kind of adapt it a little bit more for the screen, and I found they did that absolutely perfectly. The things that they added are all adding very, very good context to the characters and to a lot of the scenarios that I just find really, really work for adapting it to TV. And I'm very, very happy that they are going down that step. So yeah, we get to spend a little bit more time with Ellie, definitely a lot more time with Tess, which is very, very welcome. The whole situation with them trying to find the car battery played out pretty differently than it did in the games. But again, too, just done in a way that worked really, really well for the scenario and the context. Again, even though it's different from the games, it still has the exact same context, and it's very, very well adapted. We get to see heartbreaking sequences of, again, to just how they screen people who are infected, and again, just take no chances when it comes to it, burning bodies in the streets. And again, to having the civilians do that, not the military themselves. The civilians are the ones carrying out the work. Like all the stuff with Firma is just very, very well adapted from the games. All the stuff with the Fireflies is very, very well adapted from the games. And again, too, even though that whole sequence with Tess was done pretty differently, again, too, just absolutely perfect for what the game's told, and just adapted it perfectly for the screen. The whole situation too with meeting the Fireflies and Marlene for the first time was pretty different. You don't get to see Joel and Tess taking out the people who, again, to organize the battery deal, but they see the aftermath of it more aside, and then they meet Marlene and Ellie. So again, too, I'm glad that they're not like going down. Of course, in the games, they have to have all the killing and things like that, more gameplay for you, but they're adapting the story for Joel to, again, not quite show him as a senseless killer yet in that sense. You can see that he's definitely the no hesitation, he will kill to protect himself. He will kill to protect his mission a lot of times, and they show that again too. They did it in the game, and they did it within this sequence where the security guard is scanning them for infection, making certain that nothing goes wrong and none of them got bit since they're outside of the wall. And after that whole sequence, that's where this ends. So really, it adapted it perfectly, except for one thing that did kind of bother me the wrong way, and I'm not certain how they're going to handle this going forward. But there is a point where they come around the corner and they see an infected body on the wall, like you did in the games. But the only thing that makes me a little bit concerned, and I'm wondering what they're going to do with it, is of course, whenever they saw that in the games, they'd put on the gas mask because the spores that would emit from the fungus, from the cordyceps on these beings, were toxic to humans. But they didn't mention that or do that at all within this show. So I'm wondering if they're just ignoring the spores altogether, which doesn't really sit right with me because that's not how fungus works. And again, too, I just found it was such a crucial element for the games and a crucial element for Ellie's character to, again, be extremely useful in a lot of times where she doesn't need the mask to walk through the spores and whatnot. I feel like too that's something really terrifying within the first games that I really hope they don't leave out. Yeah, that's just the one thing that really didn't sit right with me. Again, too, there was a way in the games that they explained where if you burnt the corpses that were hanging on the walls, that would get rid of the spores, but that wasn't the case with the body on the wall. Again, I'll just have to wait and see what they do with it, but I do really hope that they're not ignoring that part of the games. So when it comes to the acting, everyone knocked it out of the fucking park. Absolutely. We don't get to see a lot of Tommy, but Gabrielle Luna did an amazing job. Pedro Pascal, like no doubt within my mind that he was going to crush this role, and he's absolutely doing that. Yeah, he's fantastic within the role. He brings all the emotion that you expect, all the not emotion again to just senseless violence in a lot of ways. He has this warmth from Sex in the Section, but he also has that coldness of just again to this world, being a survivor and making certain that he again gets the job done. You see that within his performance, and it's just absolutely perfect. You have a lot of the same line delivery from Sarah, from Joel, from Ellie, from Tess within this game, with even too some new quips added in that were just absolutely hilarious. Marlene was absolutely great. I really, really like the performance from Merle Dandridge. Anna Torv as Tess. It's fucking awesome. She is great and scary. Yeah, I mean Tess was scary in the games, but I definitely feel that presence and that intimidation from her performance right now, and I can't wait to see more of her as the show goes on. She's awesome. She's killing the role so far, but my favorite part so far is Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Fucking perfect. She has the voice nailed down. She has the mannerisms, the body language, all that nailed down to the core. She is Ellie, and she's doing amazing. Again, too, easily my favorite part of this whole show was just how much she fucking crushed the first episode. And again, too, I can't wait to see her character grow in the way that they've been able to again grow and tell the games. She's really good within this, and again too there was a little bit mention of really quick mention of between Marlene and Bella that they didn't say in the first game, but they mentioned Riley. So I am really happy that they are going to be telling that story within this first season. So the DLC from the first game, they're going to be telling that story within this, which I find is very, very important to the character. There's just a lot of context within that DLC. So really, really happy that they're telling that and not shying away from it. So again, too, yeah, this is a perfect adaptation for the TV, and easily, like from this first episode, I can already say the best video game adaptation that has ever been done. The set design is absolutely perfect. We didn't really get to see clickers. We got to see the first stage of Infected, which is more just like every other really zombie I've ever seen so far. So I can't wait. I mean, we've seen little clips of it, but I can't wait to see the clickers in action when they get down to that storytelling. And of course, just that point within the show. So from what I've seen so far, it looks great. The sound design was absolutely awesome. And again, too, just making the world feel so real like it did in the games was great. Just again, to having the showing nature kind of taking over a little bit, and of course too that's only going to grow as they get more into like the residential areas out of the city into the rural aspects of America. That's definitely, we're going to see a lot of that within it, but just seeing again a lot of the broken down landscapes was something very, very good. The broken down buildings, just how dirty and grimy everything was absolutely great too. It's they're just knocking out of the park again too. Even showing that clicker on the wall looked absolutely amazing. It's just again too, I want to see the spores. I really want that to be an element of the show. That's the only thing that has me nervous so far, but really with everything taken together, giving this first episode a 9.5 out of 10. It exceeded all of my expectations so far, and I thought it was absolutely great. Just really friggin' well done so far. And yeah, I can't wait to see how this show goes. Like I said, it is so friggin' just good and amazingly adapted right now. I have all the faith in the world. When I heard the guys from Chernobyl were doing this, I had all the faith in the world within them as soon as I saw the casting and as soon as I seen this first episode. I am very, very excited for it. My girlfriend and I absolutely love the games. Yeah, just absolutely love the games, and we were very, very impressed with everything that they were able to put on within this first episode. My parents and my grandparents, I watched it with them. They didn't, well, they don't really know anything outside of just the little synopsis I told them, and they're very, very impressed with it. They're happy to have a new show to watch, and I do feel like this show presented something for everyone. It is one of the greatest stories, most human stories ever told in video games, and they're adapting it perfectly so far. I'm very, very happy. So if you've seen the first episode of The Last of Us series on HBO, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this review, definitely give it a thumbs up, and you can check out everything I do on this channel through my playlist. So I'll link them up top here for convenience sake. Thank you for subscribing and turn that little ringer on so you know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out the description of this video, there's a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So you can definitely join that amazing community, help make it even more amazing than it is already. And yeah, just awesome, guys.
would love me.